Babylon wasn't just an empire, it was a cultural assimilation machine. Its hanging gardens, hailed as a world wonder, weren't mere symbols of beauty, but tools to crush identities. Conquered nations lost lands, gods, and memories. Among the captives torn from Jerusalem was a young Hebrew, Daniel, who saw his name, Daniel, God is my judge, erased and replaced with Belteshazzar, Bel protects the king. While others assimilated, Daniel waged quiet rebellion. He refused the king's ritually tainted food, negotiating a diet of vegetables and water, a small act of control in a world determined to strip him bare. His rise as royal advisor wasn't ambition, but survival. To dismantle the system, he first had to master it. Years later, Babylon fell to the Medo-Persians. Daniel survived, earning King Darius's trust. Envious advisors targeted his unshakable faith. They crafted a deadly decree: pray to anyone but Darius, face the lion's den. This wasn't just about loyalty, it was a test of Daniel's identity. 3 times daily, Daniel knelt by an open window facing Jerusalem, a ritual linking him to a stolen identity. The conspirators saw this as a threat, but Daniel's faith was his anchor. When thrown into the lion's den, the beasts lunged, then froze. Daniel sat unscathed. The conspirators? Devoured. This story isn't just ancient history, it's a blueprint for resisting cultural assimilation today. Daniel's battle wasn't just against lions, it was against the serpentine politics of power. His survival teaches us that even in the face of overwhelming pressure, our identity and faith can be our greatest strengths. What lions threaten your identity today? What rituals anchor you? The trap. The decree was a masterpiece of manipulation. Darius, drunk on vanity, never suspected the trap. For 30 days, praying to anyone but him meant death, a law even the king couldn't revoke. The conspirators' grins widened. They'd weaponized Daniel's devotion. They watched him kneel daily by his window, hands raised toward Jerusalem. No theatrics, no defiance, just quiet devotion. When they arrested him, Darius paled. "You're my wisest advisor," he pleaded, scrambling for loopholes. But Medo-Persian law was ironclad. That night, as guards lowered Daniel into the den, the king whispered, "May your God save you." His voice cracked. Doubt hung thick. The lion's den was a theater of terror. Starved for days, the beast's roars echoed off stone walls, vibrating in Daniel's chest. Yet he didn't scream or fight. He sat cross-legged, eyes open, breathing steadily. The lions circled, claws scraping dirt, saliva dripping. One lunged, then halted, nostrils flaring. Daniel's stillness disarmed them. They sniffed his robe, growled, but retreated. Hours passed. Above, Darius paced, tormented. He'd banned music, food, even his concubines. "What have I done?" he muttered, gripping his throne. Dawn approached. The conspirators smirked, already drafting their victory speeches. But the lions waited. At sunrise, Darius sprinted to the den, robes tangled, voice raw. "Daniel, did your God deliver you?" A reply came, calm as morning light. "He sent his angel." The lions did no harm. Guards lowered ropes. Daniel ascended unscathed. The crowd gasped. His robe bore no tears, his face no fear. Darius wept, embracing him like a son. "Bring the accusers," the king ordered. The conspirators' smiles vanished. They were thrown into the den. This time, no angels intervened. The lions tore them apart before they hit the ground. Daniel didn't watch. He walked away, to pray. Aftermath. News of Daniel's survival spread like wildfire. Slaves whispered his name in awe. Nobles clenched their teeth. Darius issued a royal decree. All must tremble before Daniel's God. But the order reeked of insecurity, a king desperate to mask his guilt. Daniel, however, refused the spotlight. He returned to his duties, silent as ever. His window remained open, prayers unbroken. The lion's den wasn't a triumph to him. It was proof of a broken system. Meanwhile, courtiers avoided his gaze. They'd seen the cost of envy. Yet beneath their bowed heads, new plots simmered. Power never sleeps. Daniel's resilience became a mirror for others' insecurities. Darius, once a proud ruler, now sought his counsel obsessively. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked one night. Daniel paused. "Fear is a choice," he said. The king frowned, uncomprehending. Outside the palace, the story morphed into legend. Some claimed angels blinded the lions, others said Daniel charmed them with songs. But the truth was simpler. He'd mastered his mind. While others reacted, he responded. Yet danger lingered. A new advisor, sharper than the last, studied Daniel's habits. The window, the prayers, all vulnerabilities. Years later, an aged Daniel still prayed 3 times daily. The empire had new rulers, new laws, but his ritual never wavered. Young scribes asked, "Why keep the window open? You've proven your faith." He smiled. "The window isn't for God, it's for me." The act was defiance distilled, a refusal to let fear dictate his freedom. Even as his hands trembled and his voice softened, his resolve hardened. Babylon fell, Persia rose, yet Daniel endured, not as a hero, but as a man who'd learned to breathe in fire. His legacy? Quiet consistency. And the lions? Forgotten. The new threat. The Medo-Persian court buzzed with whispers. Darius was dead and Cyrus the Great now ruled. Daniel, now in his 70s, served as always, silent, unshakable. But empires rot from within. A new advisor, Haman, rose to power, his ambition veiled in false humility. He noticed Daniel's influence, his open window, his unyielding faith. "A relic," Haman sneered in private. "His God saved him once. Let's see if he'll do it again." He drafted a law. Anyone refusing to worship the king's image dies. The decree was vague, deliberate, a trap set with surgical precision. Daniel read the decree, his face unreadable. He knew the game. That afternoon, he knelt by his window as always, hands raised toward Jerusalem. Guards burst in, smirking. "Old man, your prayers are treason now." One spat. Daniel rose slowly, eyes steady. "I serve God alone," he said, no defiance in his tone, just fact. They dragged him to Cyrus, who sighed. "You're a legend, Daniel. Bend the knee and I'll pardon you." The king's offer was genuine, but Daniel shook his head. "Truth isn't negotiable." Cyrus frowned, torn between admiration and pride. The law was clear. The punishment was poetic. The furnace. Not lions this time, a blazing kiln, its heat melting stones. Daniel was bound, his robe smelling of oil and inevitability. "Any last words?" Haman taunted. Daniel smiled faintly. "You fear what you can't control." Guards shoved him in. Flames roared, then stilled. Through the fire, shadows moved. Not one man, but 4. Cyrus leapt up, face pale. "I see a 4th figure. Like a son of the gods," he gasped. Daniel emerged moments later, untouched, his clothes scentless. Haman ordered the furnace opened, and was engulfed in flames. Cyrus bowed his head. "Your God lives." Reflections. Daniel stood by his window gazing toward Jerusalem. The city was a memory now, a symbol of what he'd lost and what he'd gained. He thought of Darius, who'd wept for him, and Cyrus, who'd bowed his head in awe. Power was fleeting, but integrity was eternal. The lion's den had been a crucible, testing not just his faith, but his resolve. He remembered the conspirators, devoured by the very beasts they'd used to condemn him. Justice was a double-edged sword. Sometimes it cut both ways. Daniel's eyes never left the horizon. His heart remained open. Cyrus approached Daniel one evening, his footsteps quiet on the stone floor. "You're a mystery, Daniel," he said, his voice low. "A man who's seen the worst of humanity yet still prays with such conviction." Daniel turned, his eyes warm. "It's not about what I see, Your Majesty. It's about what I choose to believe." Cyrus nodded thoughtfully. I fear for my empire. We conquer, but at what cost? Daniel's response was gentle. Empires rise and fall. What endures is the heart. The king's gaze lingered on him before he departed, lost in thought. Daniel returned to his prayers. As night fell, Daniel's window remained open, a beacon in the darkness. The wind carried whispers of distant wars and forgotten gods. Yet in this tumultuous world, Daniel found peace. His faith wasn't a shield, it was a bridge, a connection to something greater than himself. The lions, the furnace, the conspirators, each trial had refined him like gold in fire. He wasn't a hero, he was a testament to the human spirit's capacity for resilience. And when he finally closed his eyes, it was with a sense of gratitude, not for what he'd endured, but for what he'd become. The window stayed open, a symbol of hope. Legacy. Decades blurred. Daniel's hair whitened, his steps slowed, but his window stayed open. Young scribes gathered, eager to hear tales of lions and fire. How did you endure? One asked. Daniel smiled. I didn't. God did. His humility disarmed them. Yet shadows lingered. A new generation of advisors eyed him coldly, their envy sharper, their tactics crueler. Times change, a rival muttered, but power's game remains. Daniel overheard but said nothing. He'd learned. Silence disarmed arrogance. That night he dreamt of Jerusalem, not as ruins, but as a promise. Dawn found him praying, his hands steady, his soul unshaken. Cyrus, now aged, summoned Daniel. The king's throne room felt emptier, his voice wearier. I've built an empire, he confessed, but you've built something invisible. How? Daniel knelt, not in submission, but respect. Your empire conquers lands, Majesty. Faith conquers fear. Cyrus chuckled bitterly. Fear is my constant companion. He gestured to a map spanning continents. All this, and I envy your peace. Daniel's reply was soft. Peace isn't the absence of storms. It's standing firm within them. The king dismissed him, but Daniel saw tears in his eyes. Power, he realized, was the loneliest prison. Daniel's final years were a quiet rebellion. He mentored outcasts, former slaves, foreign scholars, teaching them that dignity wasn't granted by kings but claimed in silence. His window became a symbol. Rebels in distant provinces etched its shape on walls, a code of resilience. When death came, it was gentle, a faded breath at dawn. Cyrus ordered a royal tomb, but Daniel's followers buried him simply, facing Jerusalem. The window stayed open, even in ruins. Centuries later, poets would write of a man who outlived empires by mastering his soul. His true legacy? Not miracles, but the courage to kneel and rise. Faith under pressure. Daniel's resilience wasn't defiance, but radical acceptance. His refusal to compromise rituals, prayer, diet, wasn't rigidity, but a way of maintaining control in a chaotic world. Deprived of autonomy, he controlled what he could: his body, his words, his silence. This reflects the human need for autonomy in the face of oppression. His nightly prayers by the window weren't just devotion, they were a form of existential rebellion, a reclaiming of identity in a system designed to erase it. Daniel's calm in the face of predators reflects emotional regulation. Rather than reacting to fear, he practiced presence. His breathing, his stillness, were not passivity, but embodied resistance. The conspirators, driven by envy, represent narcissistic rage, the inability to tolerate the excellence of others. His fate, devoured by his own weapon, reflects the boomerang effect. Malice often returns to its source. Daniel's survival wasn't just divine intervention, it was integrity as armor. Decades later, Daniel's legacy lies in his unwavering commitment to his values. In the face of Babylonian idolatry, he did not compartmentalize faith and duty, but integrated them. His mentoring of marginalized people reveals transformative leadership, empowering others through shared vulnerability. The open window, a recurring symbol, represents liminality, existing between cultures but with a solid foundation. His life whispers, true power lies not in dominance, but in unwavering consistency between belief and action. Final thoughts. Empires crumble, gardens wither, but Daniel's window remains, a metaphor for the persistence of hope. His story is not about ancient miracles, but about enduring truths. Identity is not given, but claimed. Integrity outlives palaces. In a world of shifting loyalties, he modeled sacred stubbornness, the courage to kneel when others demand that you stand. His battles were not unique. Envy, corruption, moral compromise. Sound familiar? Today's lions are not beasts, but on systems. Injustice, greed, ethical decay. Daniel's strategy remains: control what you can, liberate what you can't. His life argues that faith is not escaping reality, but engaging with it, armed with purpose, not power. What defines you in the chaos? What rituals anchor you? The answer lies not in imitating Daniel, but in discovering your own unbreakable coherence. We leave Daniel not as a hero, but as a mirror. His open window challenges us. Which lions will you face? How will you transcend the trappings of power? If this story resonated with you, subscribe to explore more tales that defy time, because like Daniel, we all have a window to what truly matters. Is yours open?